right, I think we're in. Hey, everybody. Reggie here and Anna with Traject Social. Hope everybody's doing okay. I think we're still getting a lot of people jumping in. Thank you guys for your time. I appreciate you guys jumping in for this week's Traject Social office hours. We've got a lot on the presentation here today. We got a lot of stuff that we want to review with you guys, a lot of feedback that we want to go through, some really good tips and tricks that Anna's got prepared for us too. And then as always, we're going to open up to a Q&A towards the end as well. So take advantage of that questions in that chat box. Send us your feedback, send us your questions. We'll do our best to answer everybody by the end of it. All right, Anna, you want to say hi to everybody? I'm going to try to see if I already got a couple of questions in here. I spoke to a couple of you guys this week. If you don't already know, you've probably already gotten those pop-ups in your dashboard. I'm trying to schedule some user interviews. We've got some features coming up, and I want to run them by you guys to see, if there's any feedback, any insights on that. So if you haven't seen or signed up for a session yet, definitely make sure to check that out. For those of you who have already done it, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. And thanks for keeping your promise to jump back in on this social report office or Traject Social office hours today. Thank you guys.
Yeah, so it looks like the rate that people are coming into this webinar is kind of tapering off a little bit. So I think most people are getting kind of settled in. So we can start. So what's up, guys? I'm Anna. I'm on the marketing team here at Traject. So after Reggie takes us kind of through some product updates, I'm going to talk more about strategy and how you can use Traject Social in the best ways for your marketing strategy, the ways that I like to use it, tricks that I use because I use the tool to manage all the Traject brands myself. So that'll be the second part. But Reggie is going to kick us off with the product updates.
Yep, there you go. Let me see if I can jump in and start sharing my screen. All right, Anna, let me know if you can see my screen.
Yep, we're good.
All right, sweet. All right, guys, so for those of you guys who jumped in last month, and if you haven't necessarily found anything, we've got the session recorded. We talked a little bit about our Canva integration. It's something that we're aspiring to have launched very, very soon. And so we wanted to take some time to get some feedback from you guys as we work through this integration. More specifically, the way that Canva will allow us to integrate their platform with our tool for scheduling is that we have to specify certain resolution sizes. So what image dimensions do you want to be able to edit in? So for right now, we've got these 4 built-in resolutions that we're working with that we're hoping to get in our kind of MVP, right, or our starter edition of our Canva integration. And we wanted to get some feedback on you guys, from you guys on this specific one. So the first one that I have here, the 1200 by 632, you might be familiar from last month's conversation. This is kind of the dimension that works best if you're trying to use one image across multiple networks. So this will work well with your Facebook post, your Twitter, your LinkedIn. You won't get the crop bars on LinkedIn. It works well for Google Business without the crop bars. Twitter, I mean, you name it. That even works for Instagram as well, fitting within that aspect ratio that Instagram limits you to. So that's one of the resolutions we wanted to make sure we kept there. Obviously, we've got that square aspect ratio, right? The 1080 by 1080, that's great for Instagram. Also good on Twitter and Facebook as well. We've got the stories, right? The stories layout, the vertical resolution, and then even more vertical resolution for Pinterest. So those are the 4 that we have right now. So take advantage of that chat box, that question box in GoToMeeting, and just leave us your feedback. If we don't get them right now, we're definitely going through all of that feedback at the end of the session. It'll help us to drive that feature, right? To understand, okay, these are the resolutions most of our users really like to see. And hopefully you'll see that resolution show up once we launch this feature. So that's a quick update there on Canva. I'm sure you guys are going to be asking, when is this going to launch? Well, we're really hoping to launch this by beginning of June. So we're pushing for it, working with our awesome engineering team. Talk a little bit about some other things that we're working on. But we're hoping that beginning of June, we're going to be able to launch our Canva integration. I know a lot of you guys are excited. You'll be able to start editing your content, creating your designs with Canva. And the awesome thing we found out as well, too, in communications with Canva is will also allow us to save a historical edit for those pictures. So if a week later you decide you want to go back to one of your designs and touch it back up or modify it, you'll actually have those layer history so you can make changes. So that's going to be awesome. Really, really excited for that. All right, the next one here that I wanted to talk to you guys about is TikTok. So for those of you who have been in those interviews that we've been holding during the week for feedback. We're really interested to hear what you guys have to say about TikTok. I know this is an up and coming platform. It's gotten a lot of traction, even so more lately. And we wanted to understand kind of the use cases, right? I know that we have users across different industries, right? We've got agencies, freelancers, small and large enterprises, and businesses. So we wanted to understand, like, do you or your clients utilize TikTok as part of your social media strategy? And if so, would a scheduling or a reporting feature within Traject Social be something that would be important to you, right? We're trying to analyze, the industry within TikTok, the trends, so that we can decide, the feature set that we want to build out this year, this summer, and later in the fall. So if you guys could jump into that chat box again, just drop us your feedback. Is TikTok something that you or your clients would be interested in? Is it something that you currently use as part of your social media strategy, or is it something that you're considering using in the future? And as well as, the scheduling feature, the reporting, is that something that would be interesting? I think one of the cool points that we've discussed in the past during our user calls that has been brought up pretty frequently is that TikTok, like Instagram, is pretty heavy on those influencer sort of aspect of marketing. So we've had people reach out to us and say, hey, I would love to figure out if I can track posts from influencers and maybe tag those as a campaign that I'm running for a client. That's some really good feedback there. So if that's something that you think would be interesting for your efforts, definitely let us know. So jump into that chat bar and give us as much as you can right on that TikTok functionality. All right. And in the meantime, I know you guys are going to be writing a ton. I'll jump into a quick update. I'm sure a lot of you have questions here. And that kind of revolves around late last week. We had some issues with the site going down a few times between Thursday and Friday. And so I wanted to make sure that I took this time to run you guys through a little bit of maybe what happened and what we're doing to kind of just improve and make sure that that doesn't happen again. So I think part of what happened is, as I'm sure you guys are aware, there's a lot more high volume traffic all over the internet right now. I mean, the case of the world that we're living in right now, a lot of people are working remotely, a lot more than usual, than before rather. And so we saw a lot of higher volume traffic, a lot of peak instead of distributed hours. And so what we're trying to do now is we're going to increase our capacity to scale with our users' demands. We're making a lot of investments in our servers. It's just the last point here is we're planning to even move to a bigger, better, and faster server space so that we won't have to have this in the future as well. We're trying to make sure that scalability and performance is top of mind as we move towards delivering high traffic capacities here. And also we're working on monitoring and notifications, so our internal engineering team, so that we can get real-time text message notifications, phone calls. I mean, we're gonna ring everybody's phone, fax, we're gonna send them tweets, or whatever it is that we need to do, as far as giving us some reliable, proactive monitoring, right? Instead of, I know on Friday you guys reached out, hey, the site's down. I think it was the second time after Thursday. So we're making sure that we're implementing a lot of notifications and monitoring so that we can catch things like this before they happen. And hopefully that'll help us to prevent any downtime in the future as well. So that's the site reliability portion that I wanted to speak to you guys about. Obviously, if you guys have any questions on any of this, anything about our Canva updates, or even the TikTok, make sure to type those into the chat. Anna and I are gonna take the last 15, 20 minutes of today to make sure that we answer everybody's questions. So that's it on my end, Anna. Go ahead and stop my screen share here. I know that Anna's got a bunch of really awesome tips there for us with our content syndication. I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, if you guys will give me 1 second while I switch over to sharing my screen. I'm going to talk about content syndication. And if you guys will give me 1 more second, I need to move all these webinar panels that are in my way so I can start presenting. And here we go. So
gotta love GoToMeeting. There you go.
I know. You guys can only see a screen. I have so many little windows and all the question window and everything. Okay. So content syndication is something you guys expressed a lot of interest in when I kind of went over it really briefly in the last office hours, and kind of how I usually go about setting that up, the best ways to set it up, and kind of how you can make those posts as valuable as possible. So the first step we're going to talk about is creating a schedule for it. So this is how many posts a day of syndicated content that you want to go out on your profiles. And there's kind of two things we're going to remember for this first step. We're going to keep it clean. I'm going to show you guys an example. I set up on the Authority Labs that account. That's one of our other tools. If you guys don't use it already, the SEO rank tracker tool in our suite. So I set up those syndicated posts without a posting schedule, and I'm going to show you guys how scary it looks. And then we're going to talk about the rule of thirds. So it's generally accepted as social media best practices to split the types of content you post into 3 different categories. You've got your original content, so that might be, you know, campaigns about your products, your deals, posts of your content, your blogs, everything that directs traffic to your own website. No business should be doing that for 100% of their posts all the time. You really miss out on a lot of opportunity to kind of position yourself as a thought leader and have people want to follow your profile for, you know, up-to-date news on what's happening in the industry. You miss a lot of opportunity and kind of building those relationships with influencers or people who are writing other pieces that you can tag when you share their articles and kind of grow that engagement. So at least 1/3 of all your content, you know, give or take, nothing like this is an exact science. It depends on what your audience wants and your industry, of course, but a decent chunk should be, you know, articles and syndicated content from around the web that you don't produce. So we're going to talk about step 1, how to create a posting schedule. And now I have to move all my little windows again so I can access the other part of my screen share. And where, Reggie, can you give me a shot that you can see me switching to Traject Social?
I can, perfect.
Cool, okay, so we scroll down a little bit here. This was when I started making it scary. And without a posting schedule, I pretty much just put in a couple publications to the content syndication. And you can see, instead of populating 3 to 5 time slots a day I put into a posting schedule, it just added every time that these publications produce something. And my calendar is a mess. These blue ones are the only ones I chose, and all this gray stuff is just extra annoying. So we're going to avoid that. We're going to create a posting schedule. So we're going to go under publishing and go to posting schedule and create new. And then this screen is where, so we'll call this something, you know, either like news or curated content, whatever, but you want to give it a title right here. And then add all of the times per day. You probably won't actually do these times when no one is online, depending on your time zone though. And you're going to fill these out for each of the days that you would want to do it. So rather than take the time to do all of that in front of you guys, this is the social media news post I created ahead of this. So this is going to be my posting schedule for just my syndicated articles from around the web. So we've got our posting schedule done. So that's locked and loaded, and we're just going to leave it in posting schedules for now. So step 2 is we're going to find the content, and we can do that one of 2 ways. We can either do the content finder, or we can directly put in the feed of a publication we already know is one that is going to be really valuable to your users. So again, we're going to go under the publishing tab in the nav bar, and this time go to content syndication. And this is where you can find the publications you want to feed into your calendar and Traject Social. So the component of this that can't be automated is you already need to have kind of an idea of what are reputable publications, what are maybe some keywords to start searching here that would lead to reputable publications that your audience is interested in. So that's kind of something like a muscle that you need to flex and kind of grow on your own of knowing where to get these articles. So once you click find content, I know I want to, my audience wants to know about SEO. So I'm going to search SEO in the search bar, and it's giving me a bunch of options. So you can browse through these. You can go see what they are on your own, see if they look like something interesting. I know that the webmaster blog from Google is really interesting to people in SEO because these are all the changes Google is making. So I'm going to select that one and add it. And then once you select the profiles you want it to appear on, the really important part is that you're going to want to click this require approval tab. And that way that none of these publications will just start sending things out public on your social profiles without you knowing. It'll kind of have that moment of pause where it populates as a draft that requires approval on your calendar. The other way to find content is, again, find content. And you can see it says here, enter specific RSS feed URL. So if you can't find a publication that you're searching for using that find content search bar, you can go directly to some of your favorite sites. So see, if I'm posting about social media marketing, it's probably really relevant to my audience, things that the Facebook newsroom is putting out. So you just add RSS or add feed. Depending on the CMS, you may need to do one or the other for it to work. But you can see, so that's switched to feed. Feed is the correct URL. And I can add this directly in there. And there it is. So now those will start populating. So you can find those on your own just by visiting the website itself. And you'll know when it pops up this really scary screen that personally means nothing to me, you have the right place and just take that URL directly from there and add it in here. And again, if you add any of those, just have them require approval. We discussed a little bit last time, you can either do require approval or you can go back into these and have them populate as a draft. I would recommend doing the require approval way because then it will show up in the Traject Social mobile app. It'll just be put right in front of you in the awaiting approval section, and that way you can send those out from mobile really easily as well. As when it populates as a draft, it's a little bit harder to finagle around, accessing it, opening it, making changes to it in mobile, rather than it just populating right in the draft section. So when you're all done with that, save it. For this require approval section, the other part of that is needing to make sure that your approval permissions are all squared away. So you can find that up here at this little user tab and manage users. And when you're adding a user, this is how you can either let yourself or let anybody else be able to publish that syndicated content that populates not approved as a draft in the calendar. So we created our posting schedule, saved it, locked and loaded that, and left it alone. Now we've entered in our publications that we want to syndicate. Those are all saved and ready. Now we need to link the two, and we need to go into the syndicated content feeds and choose a posting schedule for them to publish on. So we're going to go under publishing again, post presets. So this is the Facebook newsroom feed that I entered into my content syndication. I'm going to click on that just to go to the settings for it, and down here on the side, I'm just going to make sure it's only publishing on the posting schedule that I created. And you can see, you click that little gear, this will pop up, and you can change that. So here's another example. Again, we're in post presets. This is that social media marketing one that I just did, with all of these ones that I just found. And I'm going to go down and yes, I want it, so it's going to be in distribution. Again, click that same gear, and I want it to be on a posting schedule, and I'm going to select the correct posting schedule, select it, and then I'm going to save that. Now, the last piece of this is just to kind of make sure that you, before you approve those drafts and publish them to go out, that you are curating a nugget of text. So when those populate on the feed, you can see they just populate with the title of the article. Your users can, they can already see that, and they can already see the meta description. So I would just recommend not copying either of those and using the syndicated content drafts as kind of a way to be spoon-fed, valuable content around the web in a really efficient way, but still click through to them once it's been given to you on the calendar and populated on there, and find what's really interesting about it to your readers, and then curate that nugget of text just like you normally would. And then it will be ready for you to publish. And that is how I personally use content syndication. Would love to hear from you guys if that's how you use it, or you have other tips and tricks, or if there's anything else that you guys want me to dig into there. But if you just kind of missed a step, or you really want it laid out, how I just went through all that, this video will be published on YouTube, and there'll also be a recap blog that we'll email out to everybody that will show screenshots of all the steps. I think that we have some questions as well. So I'm trying to pop out this question pane, and then we can get started on kind of digging into those. Oh, Reggie, already some answers and feedbacks on TikTok.
Yeah, I love it. I saw some here. Yeah, and I totally get it. I think, Susan, you put in a comment here that the clients are not really interested. And I think, that's a fair point. Right now, TikTok is kind of in this realm. Anna, you could probably talk about that a little bit better, where it's a lot of, do I want to invest time? I'm not sure if this is going to be like a Facebook or a LinkedIn, where it's going to be, there's going to be longevity to this actual network. And what does this even look like for a brand that wants to, has seen ROI? So there's a lot of questions floating around, definitely. I know that there's a lot of early adopters to this space, where they're kind of maybe taking the Vine approach, where they're reaching out to influencers, not necessarily going through the actual TikTok ads platform. So that's a really good point. I know that there's definitely going to be a lot of social media managers who perhaps their clients just aren't ready to jump into TikTok. So it's a good feedback to see as well. And then obviously we have some people here who are very interested as well.
It's going to depend on your audience for sure. It definitely skews younger. I think the really interesting thing about TikTok to think about is it's kind of unique in the sense that TikTok content doesn't stay on TikTok. It's seen pretty ubiquitously across all other social media channels. People just kind of, they take the video and then it becomes a meme, or it becomes other content that people tweet or people post on Instagram. So it's still, kind of good content creation to consider if it's content that you think could be repurposed on other platforms. But it is very new, and there's a lot to be seen on that for sure still.
Right. Right. All right. I've got a question here about. Let's see. There's somebody said TikTok gives me a headache. I know. I feel like there's a new network all the time coming up. I think TikTok. If we give it a chance, it could surprise us. I feel like there's a lot of backing around that. A lot of brands already doing work there. So there's a question here about. There was a few questions about our Android app and whether that's ready to go. So we're entering the beta stage early next week. So if you guys are looking towards doing an Android app testing, helping us out with that, just send your email address, like where you want that invitation to go to, send that over to social@bytraject.com, and our support team will help you guys get set up. So I think Monday or Tuesday next week, we're going to start sending out those invites. You'll be able to download a beta app on your Android device, help us test it out, report any issues or feedback that you have on that as well. And I think we're looking for end of May to be our official launch for the Android app. Oh, Michelle, the email is social@bytraject.com. So it's the support email address.
Okay, there's a good syndication question. Bear with me, I'm still trying to read through it a little bit. So if you have a foundation's blog URL, can you add that if they don't offer an RSS and they don't come up in search results?
Yeah, so for the syndication, you're really looking for an RSS feed, right? Usually that's like an XML file or something like that. Generally, if the CMS is like WordPress or Tumblr, they're auto-generated. So if you add /RSS or /feed, it'll automatically direct you to the correct one. Now, on the off chance that that website doesn't have a CMS that automatically generates an RSS, unfortunately, that wouldn't work with the content syndication feature. However, you can also syndicate from directly from a Facebook source or a Twitter source or a Pinterest source. So if Foundation's blog, right, maybe they're posting their blogs to Facebook or to Twitter, you can also use their Facebook or their Twitter as a source to syndicate from as well. That could be a good workaround for your case.
That's actually a really great point that I sort of glossed over quickly. If you guys don't mind, I'll share my screen again very quickly, just to kind of show you in content syndication. Before, where I clicked this find content, I went straight to news and blogs because that's the most common. But just like Reggie just said, you can have another company's Twitter or publications post on their social media populate as those same posts, like we just did with the blogs right here.
Awesome. Yeah, I think the question was brought up, like if the CMS is Medium, whether or not that RSS would work. And from my recollection, the best of my understanding, Medium does automatically generate RSS feeds, but it's not at the blog level. It would be at the user's profile. So whatever that user is that's creating those blog posts, that's where the RSS would be generated. I don't know the exact domain. It's something like medium.com/feed/ and then their mention. We could probably send that over. If you want to start a support chat, I'm sure we can help you figure out what the RSS feed is for that specific brand.
There's a lot of workarounds for stuff like that, or especially less popular CMS workarounds and stuff like that. If you just Google find the RSS feed, there's ways that you can go to page source and they'll tell you where to find it after the hrefs tag and the page source. All sorts of things like that. So give it a quick Google. If you think it may be a weird niche situation, there might be a workaround. But like Reggie said, also just put it in a support ticket. We'd be happy to help you find the right feed.
Yeah, definitely. All right, there's a cool question that came in here too. I think that kind of goes back to some of our scheduling features. The question is, am I correct that you can't remove links from the post content area? In Facebook Scheduler, you can remove the link and it'll still link to the article. So I think what they're talking about here in this question is if you're writing up a post on Facebook, Facebook gives you the option to kind of like remove the actual text, right, the actual URL from the body, and it'll still give you that link card at the bottom. And you can definitely do that within Traject Social. The way that it works for us, we kind of have to trigger that endpoint in Facebook. So you'll write out your entire copy, and you want to make sure that the URL to the link you're sharing is the very last thing in the composer. And what that will do is we'll automatically remove the link when we publish it, and you'll still get that link card, that link preview card. So Michelle, I hope that answers your question. It can definitely be done. Just make sure that the link, the URL that you're publishing, is the last item in the composer that you're writing. That's a really good question. I'm loving it.
Can you type more than one keyword into the find content search field? Yes. You know, obviously the more keywords you type, it may drill it down to be more and more specific. So you may not be able to find something that fits such a specific search term. But if it takes 1 or 2 or 3 words to, you know, give the correct nuance of what you're looking for, you know, you don't want digital news, you want digital marketing news. That's really important context. You can definitely search a few of those words. The way this works in the tool is it draws from a database of publications that have kind of just been created and amassed. So if it's not in there, that may be why, and that's a good time to kind of use the URL on your own, the RSS or the feed.
Awesome. Yeah, and I think to that too, what could be proved to be very helpful is like in the advanced options for syndication, you could utilize like the keywords to actually help you filter. Because sometimes I understand if you've got like 4 or 5 different sources in that syndication, it can get kind of overwhelming. You log in the next day and you've got 15, 20 posts to review to kind of select from. So I like to use like negative key terms, and I've heard a lot of feedback that that's very helpful, where you put in a couple of negative keywords that you want to make sure we filter out. And so there, you know, you end up with a more accurate selection of content for you to, you know, manually go through and, as Anna said, touch it up, add some text to it, right? Add your spin to it instead of just letting it publish with just the link in the title. There's a question here about Facebook ads. I'm sorry, I don't see the rest of the question there, but we do support Facebook ads if that's your question. We both, we allow you to boost posts when you're scheduling them, and we also offer Facebook ads reporting. So if you have specific questions on any of those, definitely let us know. I could try to help as best as my knowledge will allow. How do I remove an earlier created syndication? All right, Angie, so there's kind of 2 approaches to that question. So if you have a syndication with more than one source and you're trying to remove one of those sources, you can just do that from the syndication page. So kind of what Anna did earlier when she went to the publishing dropdown, post presets. The post presets page will actually show you all of your syndications, and then you can either just delete the entire syndication from there, or you can click on one of those and you'll see your list of sources. So if you've got 5 RSSs, 3 RSS feeds, you can actually customize that, remove 1 or 2, or add a couple of more. You'll always be able to go back to an existing syndication to modify that. Facebook ads boosting, yeah. So at this time, you can only boost a post that was either scheduled within Traject Social or had already been published in Traject Social. So currently, our Facebook ads implementation is, you know, let's say you're trying to schedule a post for next week, maybe you're doing 2 or 3, you want to attach a couple of dollars, maybe $5 to $10, something like that, for each of those posts for a day or 2. That's really where it's going to help you to be more efficient with that, right? You can set up a post preset, and you can tell Traject Social, anytime I schedule in this post preset, I want automatically for there to be a $15 budget for 3 days. And that way you don't have to think twice about that, right? You don't have to go through your custom audience again. You don't have to set up a budget again. You can always set that up as a post preset setting. So we have a question here about Instagram posting losing engagement. So the way that our Instagram scheduling works is that we send you a push notification to the Traject social app or via email or through text message. And you actually have to finish that post by opening the Instagram app and pasting the content. So you're essentially doing an organic Instagram post. It's not going through their API. So there really shouldn't be any sort of loss in engagement. I mean, I know that there are some people, there's some research back from 2012 that indicated that perhaps posting via API would diminish your reach or your engagement. That's been disproved since then. However, since we're not doing an API-based publication to Instagram, you're actually doing it through your phone as an organic post, that shouldn't even be the case in either way. So if you've had a drop in engagement, you're not super sure what it is, maybe reach out to support. Maybe they can help you pinpoint in your reporting at what point that drop happened. Maybe there's something that happened with either ads or different sorts of, I guess, strategy that might have shifted there as well. Some really good questions coming in, right, Anna?
Yeah, that's a really good segue into this other one I saw. This gets me excited. I love accessibility questions. So we've got one about the alt text. So the question just says that, you know, alt text and photo captions can be added across a few of the platforms. Facebook is pretty straightforward. And then wondering how that can be done for Instagram. So like Reggie was just describing, you start preparing the post in Traject Social, but you're really posting it natively. So adding alt text to your photos would happen natively in Instagram as well.
Right, exactly. We had a question here coming in about our search feature, Angie. If you're having some issues, I mean, there shouldn't be, like, there's no system-wide issues or anything like that at this time with our search feature. So if you're having trouble, maybe because there's certain results that are not populating, or you're having trouble with the reporting piece of the search agents, make sure to open up a support ticket. I know Mario, Kat, Christina, any one of the team would be happy to dive in and try to do some investigation as to why your specific search agent might not be working. Very awesome. Is posting to Facebook enabled? Yes, you can definitely publish to Facebook. Facebook's API limits us to only be able to publish to Facebook pages and Facebook groups that you own or are an administrator of. So if you're trying to publish to a Facebook group that you're just a member of, that won't work. You would have to do it natively. They don't have that ability via the Facebook API. And the same thing goes for the personal profile. I'm sure you guys have followed the news over the last couple of years. There's been some privacy concerns and things like that. So middle of last year, Facebook made that change where they'll no longer allow any third-party tools like Traject Social or anybody else to publish to a personal profile. And that kind of helps to decrease kind of that inorganic bot creation, I guess you could say, of personal profiles on Facebook at a mass sort of scale.
I'm going to take this one, kind of asking about some confusion about social report and the switch to Traject Social and the website, because that's a decision that my team made to keep the social report website up. So that was mostly an SEO decision, and trying to maintain some of our organic traffic. So, you know, over the years of social report existing, it amassed a lot of references around the internet, links from other articles, from other listing sites, all that kind of stuff. That gives us a lot of traffic that we, rely on as a business to get to, generate users. So that is still up and will automatically redirect you to Traject Social if you access it, or if you are trying to access the tool or the app, because the social report app in the platform no longer exists, but you don't need to do anything special to make that transition. If you attempt to access it through social report, it'll just automatically drop you off right at Traject Social through that redirect. And at some point, when that web traffic tapers off, that website may no longer exist. But for right now, while Traject Social kind of builds up some brand equity, you may still see that floating around on the internet, links to the social report URL. I would love to know if that answers the question, or if there's any other questions related to that, because that's something that is a huge priority for us, is making sure that this transition to True Social is super smooth and that there isn't any sort of confusion going on there.
Yeah, definitely. All right, I'm looking for approval from multiple people by levels. So this is a great kind of workflow where you might have a couple of roles that need to do a little bit of content before it's published. I know there's a lot of industries where there needs to be oversight in what gets published by certain roles. So in this case, so within Traject Social, you do have that first level, which means somebody schedules a post that needs to be approved, and then the second level is someone else approves it. Generally, if you need more than that just two-level approach to an approval process, we would recommend utilizing the Google Sheets integration. So you can schedule a post using the bulk scheduler within Traject Social, and you can connect to a Google Sheet. You can use that Google Sheet to send around to your team to get that sort of approval, right, modifications. Once it's finalized and done, you can upload that into Traject Social bulk scheduler. And if you need 2 weeks out, a month out, if you need to get that scheduled, it'll do that all at once for you. I think there's another question there about the Traject Social transition, about the app. Yeah, definitely. There's a Traject Social mobile app for iOS devices that's been on the App Store. If you're running on an Android device, that's we're hoping to have that launched on the Google Play Store by the end of this month, and we're accepting beta requests. So if you want to test that out, help us to test that new app, send our support team a note there through either that widget in your dashboard or social@bytraject.com, and we'll send you an invite. I think Monday or Tuesday next week, we should be ready to start sending invites to get you guys set up on those beta tester apps.
So really good question about posting to the same content to multiple Twitter accounts, and saying that if you attempt to do that, you're getting an error because of Twitter spam policies. That's correct, and that's going to stand. Kind of relating back to what Reggie was saying earlier of them trying to cut down on bots that just automate the same spam across tons of platforms. This is a way that they detect that sort of thing. And we can't really create a workaround because we rely pretty heavily, obviously, on them letting us use their API to do this publishing. So if we start letting people do things that they're not supposed to do, then we may lose access to the API. So just trying to kind of protect the ability for all users to be able to post on Twitter at all, kind of cut down anything they may think is spam.
Yeah, exactly. And then all these networks, I mean, this is kind of Twitter. They've been enforcing this for a bit now, and there's really kind of this approach where all these other networks will probably eventually start taking the same approach, because at the end of the day, right, for these social networks, and you guys as social media managers, you're aware of this, making their platform as organic as possible, right? Weeding out the bots and the spam, that's key to making sure that the ads dollar, right? The value of placing ads on that platform remains good, right? The more artificial, inorganic content that gets published, the more it's going to drive down the value of running ads. You're not going to want to run, you know, a campaign on Facebook or on Twitter if you know that half of your reach is going to end up being bots. And so that's kind of like one of the reasons, right? It's not the main reason. One of the reasons why Twitter took that approach is to help to make sure that their content stays as organic as possible. And so, yeah, like Anna said, we want to make sure that we're in Twitter's good graces. We want to be abiding by their API best practices and their rules. So that way, you know, we can always be able to offer scheduling features, reporting features, but as new things come up too, in our partnership, that we'll be able to take advantage of those features as well.
You can definitely still republish content if that makes your strategy more efficient. Just kind of add the human touch to it, either space them out to a more appropriate time difference between posts, go in, rearrange your phrasing a little bit, maybe add a different hashtag, tag the publisher, just, add in little touches that make it something different and useful, and not just, repetition.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. I think that kind of like answers already the other question that came in about users posting the same article. Like the article piece isn't really the problem, right? I mean, social signals is a big way for you to kind of get some boost as a brand too. So if you get 5,000 shares in an article, that's not the problem. I think really the ultimate problem is that identical content where the messaging, the hashtag, and the link are completely identical, and you're trying to publish it to a ton of networks and profiles at the same time. So like Anna said, right, tweak that message, fine tune it to that specific audience for that location or for that brand. Do some digging into the hashtags that should be used for that, and that's where post presets, the snippet tool, all of those things are really helpful. So you can have those snippets saved with hashtags so that you can reutilize those going forward as well. There's a question here about the draft post. So once you take a draft and you mark it as a scheduled post, meaning you approve it, you set a date, there currently isn't a way to revert it back into a draft. That's a great question. I'll make some notes of that so that we can review that in our team. But currently, once you mark a draft as a scheduled post, you won't be able to revert it. So my recommendation would probably be there. Maybe you can copy that into a draft and then delete the one that you're not quite ready. Maybe you're still tweaking that one right now. Yeah, so post presets for hashtags. So really we call that the snippet tool. So when you're using the composer, there's like a little like scissors icon, and you can use that to save hashtags for you to use again in future posts. Yeah, no problem. So Facebook groups, yes, definitely. You can publish to Facebook group. Michael, if you're having trouble with that, definitely open up a support ticket. We do support Facebook groups as long as you're either the owner of that group or if you're an administrator of that group. If either one of those two are the case, you should definitely be able to connect that to your Traject social project and publish to it without any problems. So if that's the case, meaning you're not a regular group like audience member, but you are in fact either the owner or an administrator of it, definitely reach out to support because it should be working. If not, we'll make sure to troubleshoot that, and the support team will be there to help you make sure that all of that gets taken care of.
So really good question. Does evergreen posting where the same post is kind of going out or cycling out, does that contradict the rules about posting the same post more than once? Usually no, because typically when it's going on evergreen, there's days or weeks between when the last time you posted it. It's really that amount of time. If you only have one post in your evergreen content, you have a posting schedule that says you want to send out 8 evergreen posts, it's probably not going to let you send that one out 8 times a day. Yeah. But if you've got a decently robust evergreen library and there's that time in between, it's no problem.
Yeah, exactly. And our system kind of like had to implement some of those limitations on behalf of Twitter too. So if you do have an example that one evergreen post with 8 scheduled slots, after the first one, you'll notice that second post, the third post in evergreen will fail until there's at least a 24-hour period between them. So yeah, definitely don't recommend using that. And like Anna said, make sure that you're optimizing that evergreen feature, right? Building that out so that your schedules, you're not being repetitive. I think maybe 1 to 2 weeks, and Anna, I'll defer to you on that. But leaving some time between a repost can definitely be of good value.
The great thing about these rules is that they're not just rules for the sake of rules. They really, completely overlap with what you should be doing to have a really good social media presence anyway. So staying away from being really repetitive with the same posts and kind of also realizing that you know, even if you're in a similar industry, audiences probably have different nuances. So maybe tweaking copy that you repurpose just a little bit between them. Those are all best practices anyway. I don't want to be preachy, but these rules are also kind of a good motivation to just have a really good social profile.
Right. Yeah, exactly. We had a question there about the snippet tool. If you don't mind, and I'm just gonna take a quick 10 seconds. I'll share my screen, show you guys where that is. I think that's very helpful if you're not currently utilizing that. It's a huge time saver, I would say. I'm sure for different brands, different clients, different locations, there's probably a couple of different maybe hashtag groups that you want to be utilizing for your posts. So let me go ahead and share my screen. I'll give you guys a quick look. If I could figure out how to share my screen. There you go.
Do I have to give
see
it?
that, Anna. Oh,
yes, I
don't believe so. Can you? All right, perfect. So when you're composing your post here, that snippet tool is the one I was talking about, the little scissors icon on the top right. I already have 2 snippets created. You can create one here, give it a title. I'll just label this my hashtags, and then you can add them in there. And once you save it, you'll see that as an option. So typing in my post, I can use a snippet to quickly insert some hashtags that I've saved, you know, that I want to reuse in the future. So, and it's not just limited to hashtags, right? Obviously, if you want to, I don't know, sign off with a specific signature or something like that, you can definitely do that as well. So it's not limited to just hashtags. So hopefully that helps. I saw a couple of questions, excuse me, in there about the text snippet tool. Hopefully that quick tour helps clarify.
Is there a rule for evergreen content best practices? Oh man, this is a can of worms. I mean, so you definitely want to stay away from being repetitive. The quality of posts and what your audience wants to see differs so much between businesses, between industries, all that kind of stuff. What I would recommend is in general, not having, you know, things go out, the same post with the same article within the same few days. And depending on how much you post other stuff, if you're looping in content syndication or other things, you may need more space in between them. That's a real human touch aspect, is kind of looking at your profile and seeing what's repetitive. But a way that you can make that decision for your brand in particular is to just go to the post and go to reporting and go to engagement and see if it starts to drop off over time. And if it does, then your audience may be getting a little bit sick of that post. And you know, you may want to take that out of commission. You can really easily go into evergreen content under the publishing tab. You can deselect a certain post to not be evergreen for a little while, add it back in later, and you can kind of change that mix as you go. But my answer to stuff like that is just data always, because it differs so much between audiences, what they want to see. It's like the 15-second answer I can give on best practices for posting content.
Evergreen could easily become a 30-minute conversation, if not longer. So that's a great short summary to it. Like you said, so many different ways to approach it, but a couple of guidelines could definitely help them kind of get in that right direction, right mindset for evergreen. All right, looks like the questions haven't been seeing as many come in. Hopefully that snippet tool demo helped out there. I saw a couple of questions come in. Facebook group questions we got taken care of. Awesome, guys. Thank you again for jumping in. We appreciate you guys being so active here in the question section. I love getting the feedback, and just so you know, it is something that we go back to. We review all of the chats, all of the poll answers, all of that stuff, because it's important to us to understand, you know, what's working, what's not working, what is it that we should be striving towards doing in the future. So we appreciate you being here. It helps a ton to shape the future of Traject Social.
Can we get info via email? That's a great, sorry, not to dive back into the questions, but this is a great one for us to sign off the office hours on. You can definitely sign up for the newsletter on the website. And then yes, you get all, if you're a customer, we already have your email, obviously in our customer list for emails. We send those out. For more general things that are just kind of social media news or, news about these webinars or maybe about the other products, you can also get on those lists by signing up for the newsletter on the website. This webinar replay and the blog with screenshots of showing you guys things that we talked about will also be sent out via email as well.
There you go. All right, and as always, if there's any specific questions too for your profiles or your accounts that maybe we just didn't go over, support is always happy to jump in, schedule calls, make sure that we'll work with you guys and get everything up and running for you.
Okay, you guys start practicing your TikTok dances and we'll catch you all on next month's office hours. Thank you guys.
There you go. Later, guys.